Hey everyone, how's it going today? Today we're going to be looking at an amazing bass line by the great Bridget Kearney. She's the bass player for Lake Street Dive. And like I said in the description, this is a little far out from acoustic music, but Bridget's an upright bass player, and she played a really great bass line on this track, so I figured it was deserving to have a look and kind of break down some of what's going on. So, I'd say if you're watching this video and you haven't listened to the bass line yet and read through the transcription, go back and do that first, and you can come back here. This is kind of like a supplemental thing where we're going to break down some stuff after you've internalized it a little bit. The first thing I want to talk about, first off, I'm going to break everything down into 3 different themes here. So there's some, overarching concepts that are part of this bass line intrinsically, like all the way through, that we're going to go over first, 2 of those. And then there's some technique stuff that we haven't looked at yet, just some like how to get the sound that Bridget's getting, like what technique is she using to achieve what she's doing. There's 3 different things we'll talk about there. And then at the end, we'll wrap it up with these musical concepts, really beautiful choices that Bridget made while playing this line that make a lot of sense intuitively. So those are kind of the more musical aspects. So we got the overarching concepts, we have the technique, and we have the musical aspects, these little moments that feel like they deserve to have a look, or be looked at, that is. So first off, there's the 2 themes you're hearing all the way through are right in that first bass line, right in the intro. We have this staccato thing that happens on the downbeat of the second measure, and then measure 4 is that bar of 9/8. So first, let's just check out the staccato theme. What's happening is the downbeat note, that first C in measure 2, is going to be shorter than the half note after it and the quarter note with a tie into the next bar after that. So instead of playing them all at the same length, like this, we're going to give a little bit of a hiccup. Kind of sounds like a hiccup where you shorten that first C. So it's boom, ah. That downbeat is shorter. And the way to achieve that is just lift your left hand. I'd play that with my pinky. You just lift your pinky up and the note will stop. And you'll see that, that's marked with a little dot under the note. You'll see that all the way through the bass line. And it doesn't just happen on the C chords. It'll also happen on other chords as it moves on. The A minor and the F, you'll see some staccato notes. Like whenever you see that figure, 1, 2, 4, that's the beats of the measure we're playing. 1's going to be short. That's overarching throughout the entire song. Like a very important thematic thing. And then right after that, we get our next thematic move, which is the one that's big. And that's where this measure of 9/8 comes in. Now, how do I break that down? So pretty much this bass line is in 4/4 the entire time, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how you count this bass line. And 4/4 means that the quarter note gets the beat. The 4 on the bottom is the quarter note. 9/8, the 8 on the bottom means the 8th note gets the beat. So what does that mean? Maybe it's easiest if we talk about 4/4 in regards to the 8th notes in the measure instead of the quarter note. So instead of saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's add the 8th notes in there, and it's going to sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All the ands are those 8th notes in between the quarter notes. And that's the pace at which we count this bar of 9/8. So how many 8th notes are in a bar of 4/4? Well, we got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it's 8 altogether, right? 9/8, there's going to be 1 extra 8th note in there. And the beat's divided up in 3s instead of in 2s. So instead of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So groups of threes instead of groups of twos. Hopefully that all makes sense so far. And then after that, once you have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I might simplify that and put them just in the same numbers in each group. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So even though we're counting 9, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3 3 times. And then the notes happen on the beginning of each of those little chunks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then you're on the downbeat of the next measure. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it in real time. So easiest thing to do might be able to, might be actually just to jot this down on your music if you want to print it out and look at it. Say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and write that in the bars of 4 4 leading up to it, and then on the 9 8 bar write 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, or you can go 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Either way, you're counting the right amount of 8 notes. So that's how I would count that. And I know it probably sounds tricky to some of you, but it will become second nature as you keep playing this bass line. Definitely a good thing to internalize, because like these kind of little metric shifts happen a lot in music. Not super common in string band music, but they do show up, and they show up a lot in other styles of music. So like jazz and all that kind of stuff. So those are the two like overarching themes I wanted to talk about. And feel free to shoot me any questions you have. You can just send them over. Next, I want to look at the techniques that are being used, some of these little things that Bridget's doing that are going to be new to us. First is this concept of a hammer-on. Some of you probably know what a hammer-on is, others don't. But it's when you play a note and then finger a new note without plucking it. So let's say, there's nothing to do with the song, but let's say I have the A on the G string. I'm going to put my first finger there, pluck the note, and then immediately after that, I'm putting my pinky down, and we're going to hear the B. So, the sound is being created with the left hand for that B, not the right. Instead of going, that's being plucked twice. We're just going to pluck it once. So that's what a hammer-on is, and you'll see that show up. How many of these did I write down? I think I got 1, 2, yeah, I believe I'm 3 total in this bass line. The first one is on measure 24, if you want to check that out. It's just the D, open D string, and then we're going to hammer on with our first finger on the E. So it's a half note followed by open D. So that's the first hammer on, okay? Next one's on measure 48, and that one is the same 2 notes, but they're quarter notes now instead of half notes. That's pretty cool thematic development. You think about, Bridget may or may not have thought of that beforehand, but it's cool that you're hearing something that once was a half note idea, now being condensed into a quarter note idea with some stuff before it as well. So that whole measure sounds like this. Wow, 1, 2, 3, 4. So beats 3 and 4 are your D and E and D. Excuse me. You get the hammer on, and then the open D string on beats 3 and 4. So, and then the last hammer on is actually pretty much the same move, but up a string. So we're now on the G string, and that's on measure 95, and it happens on beat 2. We're going to play that open G and then finger the A with our first finger. And it sounds like this in context. 1, 2, 3, 4. You catch it? I'll do the same thing one more time. These are 3 measures with the hammer-on measure in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's that third hammer on. So, not so much there. I think hopefully it should be pretty easy for y'all to hop on the hammer on train. and get those happening, especially because Bridget's using open strings as the original note before you hammer on to the next note, right? D, E, and G, A. That's what's going on there. All right, now we're going to talk about something a little bit more complicated, but it's the double stops that are going to be showing up. For those of you who don't know what that is, double stops are notes that are being played at the same time. You get one note on the bottom and another note above it. And we are seeing four total double stops in this bass line. First one's on measure 61, all right? And most of the double stops you're seeing are going to be one open string and one closed note. This one is on the A minor chord. So we're going to have that A note, which is our root note, on the bottom. And then we're going to be playing the C on the G string, with our pinky. Getting the root and the third of that A minor chord. Sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Really beautiful, yeah? So just play that C and let it ring. And you come back to your A string and play it open. The next one we're going to see is pretty cool. It's actually like a melodic fill into a C chord. So what's happening is we're playing this melodic fill, which ends on the open G string, and then we hit the C on the downbeat after it. So it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. You hear that? So that C is ringing above the G is ringing above the C. So we're going to let that G stay open and ringing, and then hit the C after it. That's on measure 88, for those of you wondering. Two more now. This is the only one where both notes are actually closed notes. So there's no open strings in this double stop. It's on the G chord. And this is a really common double stop that a lot of bass players use. We're going to be creating a 10th in an octave. So that means that the G on the E string is being played, and then the B on the G string is being played. That's a 10th. And by octave, I meant that there's an octave and then a third past that. So we have the root and the third of the chord, right? Sounds really pretty because there's so much space in between the two. Here's what it sounds like in context. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we go to the A minor. Right after that, we're back to our original double stop. So that's how you play all those double stops. I'd recommend playing that G with your second finger and the pinky up there for the B. That's the whole thing for all the double stops. That all happens like between measure 98 and measure 102. So that's a big chunk of double stop there. So that's a really cool thing. Something Bridget's doing that's very, very unique. And filling out a lot of the sound. Remember, this track is so sparse. It doesn't have a guitar. It has really beautiful keys, great drumming, sensitive and simple drumming, and upright bass and trio harmony. So it's Bridget's, she's a brilliant musician. She's like, oh yeah, there's space. Like I should put a color note in there. Let me get that third happening. Let me get that fifth happening on the C chord. All that stuff rounds out the sound and fills out something that isn't there because there's no guitar. And of course there's trumpet on the track as well as a melodic instrument. Last technique thing, super brief. It's the harmonic note at the very end of the track. And you'll see there's a little like open circle on top of that note. Again, this is at the very end, measure 134, 135. And so all you do is you get up to that G all the way up on the 12th fret, you would call it. And you'll find it. You just kind of keep searching around. It's somewhere up here. And you don't press down on it. You just put your finger on top of it and you get this kind of ghost-like sound. This is what it sounds like closed. more twangy, more vocal. This one's more like a ghost. And that's how Bridget ends this track. Super beautiful ending. In context, it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kind of just floats into the distance. So that's what that little circle is at the end. It's called a harmonic, and there's a lot of other harmonics on the bass, but this is probably the most standard one, and if you've never played a harmonic before, this is the one to play. It's the one that people use most commonly, I'd say. So those are our techniques, and then just finishing up here with like some really musical moments that I wanted to talk about. There's 2 moments at the end of the form. And by the end of the form, I mean the thing that repeats over and over again, right? We're going through the verse, and then there's the chorus or the refrain, and then we come back to the verse theme. So this is there's 2 moments going into the top of the form at the end of a chorus, where Bridget leaves so much space. There's like 2 full measures of this ringing G, where the drummer in the band has so much space to fill into the next verse. So timing-wise, if you want to check these out, there's one right around 1 minute in the track, and then the other one's right around 2 minutes, actually, conveniently. So just thinking about, like, yes, there's some great melodic moments in here, but she really gives so much space going into the top of these forms. So like she's choosing where to put stuff in and where to leave stuff out. So there's nothing here, which gives a lot of room for the drummer to set up a fill. You know, they're not on top of each other. She's like, I'm going to back off, you do your thing, I'm coming in on the top of the form. So in context, it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So great, right? Kind of, it almost has tension in and of itself. Sometimes not playing is more effective than playing. You know, that's the secret. If you wanted to know a pro tip, you don't have to play everywhere. And then it happens again. You know, so that was like measure 38, 39, 40. Then you got measure 78, 79, and 80, where instead of playing that open G, she does a little development. Brilliant little developments to keep a bass line alive. Instead of playing that open G for the whole space, she's playing the G on the E string. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was me trying to mimic a drum fill and failing miserably. But you got the idea. You know, there's a ton of space. It's beautiful. Very musical choice. And, you know, so when you're crafting your own bass lines, think about if there's some big moment where you feel like, you know what, other musicians can carry that. I don't need to do that. Let me step out and let someone else shine. Super tasteful choice. Next, there's this little moment I wanted to talk about. It's measures 56, and then it happens the next system down, the next bar of music down, 64. So 56 and 64. Look what's happening. You know, if you just look at the measures, you'll notice that they're identical in rhythm. We got a half note, and then an eighth note rest, and then a dotted quarter. So it's da, ah, which is really cool, you know? Again, even a minute little moment of space, that eighth note rest, does something really different to the groove, and builds tension, which releases into the following downbeat. It's just cool that she does it, she mirrors it, you know, back to back, one line down to the next, same rhythm, different notes, right? Also different chords. The first one is all on a C chord, and the last one is on a A minor chord. So first one is just 2 Ds. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it lands on that G. 1, 2, 3. Next one is 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's setting up that F. G, C, F. It's really cool that she used that theme. That's the only place she's using that particular like rhythmic figure, and it's just happening back to back. So I think that's really cool, you know. Do it once and it's cool, but do it twice and there's actually a context. It actually means something within the greater form. because it's like this mini theme that you're bringing back. So really cool moment there. And the very last thing is just the awesome, I don't know, this is just a beautiful melodic choice that Bridget utilizes. This is almost at the end of the song, measure 128 into 129. She plays a G, open G, and then she plays an E on the D string. Obvious choice, right? Everyone would know we're about to hear this F chord. Obviously, she's going to play that F on the D string. But no, she doesn't play that. She drops the octave and hits the F on the E string. Very cool, you know? And we saw this a little bit in this Barry Bales transcription. There's that big fill moment that it feels like he's going to land on the E on the D string, but he jumps all the way down to the low E. I'm telling you, folks, this is, you know, good bass players are good bass players. Like, near the end of a song, sometimes you want to do something drastic, you know? And yeah, okay, the F on the D string would sound good, but you get a very similar melodic sound going from, you know, you hear the resolution, even though it's a bit jumpy, but you also get that bottom end that just feels so good. And she's been playing that low F the entire time, so why change it now? It's almost like a little psych out moment. Play it in context. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the end of the song. So such a beautiful, beautiful song. Really well composed bass line with a lot of melodic intrigue that I'll let you guys discover on your own. You guys know how to play little melodies by now. But also in places, she really leaves a lot of space. Very musical decisions all the way through. And just all around a great summer vibe. So enjoy these last warm days, folks. Crank this tune while you're cooking dinner, whatever you do with your spare time. And then also, you know, get in there and listen to the bass line really carefully. Listen to what Bridget's doing. Check out all those ghost notes, right? A lot of ghost notes in this bass line. Adds a lot of funk. And then try playing it for yourself, because she's a master. And maybe one day you'll be a master too. So thanks, folks. Enjoy it. I'll see you next time.